This episode begins with coverage of the 2021 Thousand Island Cup race in Chippewa Bay. After that, I finally get back to work on Unbeknownst. Enjoy episode 6 of season 3 and check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/GlassGoat. Don't forget there are still some WBE mini pennants for sale on GlassGoat.com. My earliest memory is riding in my grandfather's boat, arm over the side, hand in the spray. I've spent much of the rest of my life chasing this feeling. All of that has led to this. The wooden boat experience. I headed out and around the island and downriver to the race start location at the foot of Oak Island in Chippewa Bay. there it is, the main event. The cannon sends the boats off. After the start, I headed to where the boats come around Scow Island to head for the finish. Thousand Island Cup is a reenactment of the Gold Cup races held on part of the original course, which was used beginning in 1905. The Chippewa Yacht Club won the Gold Cup race 4 times in that era. I'm back working on Unbeknownst again, although I did accomplish some things during the summer besides just working on the lineman. The topsides have 3 coats of wet edge paint in oyster white. The engine was tuned up over at Bill Briggs's place. The bottom has 2 coats of Spartan anti-fouling paint. I painted on the boot stripe using wet edge again, Largo blue. And the engine has been set in place after the boat was moved outside for the first time in a year and a half. The engine needed to move forward slightly, so I sent the coupler to my son, who quickly created a spacer. Thanks, Hobie. This is the motor mount for the port side. We need to move the engine a little bit to the starboard, and this will not move. So I took it off, and I'm hoping there we go. I put penetrating oil in there a month and a half ago. I was thinking it had to be able to move at some point by now. And now it got it to move. You can see where the paint used to be. So now I can get this back in place. The other one's okay, and we can get that motor lined up properly. Strong, Spec, you don't like that? Huh, buddy? Too scary, huh? Too scary. I left the nut on to make this whole thing easier. These are grade 8 bolts. I find when I do this, if you use a fine file rather than a coarse one, the finer one's a lot easier to do this stuff, and it's just about as fast. Naturally, I don't have the right size here. No, this is not the seat that I'm going to use. I just discovered a problem. I'm not sure if I thought about this before, but the steering is set up so that when you turn it like you're going to go to starboard, the shaft in the steering system is going out, away from me, which means it's going to push the rudder, because it's got to be attached on this side, away from me, which is going to take the rudder and go like this, which would mean I should be turning to the port side. I've got to fix that. Now, it's not that big of a deal. It just goes to show you that there's always something. So I've got to change this and put it in the other direction. To do that reasonably, I've got to take the steering back apart. So that's what I'm doing now. What a mess. I guess the bilge has been christened. These are a little bit strange. I used my 1/2 inch extension to turn those out, but I think I'm going to put petcocks in there. So you got 1, 2 of those here and here, and then you've got another part that drains the engine block out. Here's the graveyard of total boat paint cans. Next, I've got to create a wedge for this strut in addition to that board that I'm putting up above. And then we'll check the alignment again once I tighten that up and make sure that things haven't changed. Got to finish up this rudder installation as well. Things are getting there. Starting out with a 12-13 prop, so that's 12-inch diameter, 13-inch pitch. This is a left-hand rotation engine, so that is a left-hand prop. That's what the L stands for. Well, this fell recently, broke this handle off, and I went and priced out a new one, and I said, you know what, I think I'm waiting for Black Friday. So with all my experience as a coach, I pretended it was an ankle or a shoulder and I taped it up. It ought to be fine as long as I take it easy with it. That spider was not happy, Spec. Okay, so I've got this piece of mahogany reclaimed out of an old boat. I'm going to make the wedge for the strut out of this. It's got to be a little less than 3/8 of an inch at the fat end, down to practically nothing at the other end. So we'll probably do it with, I guess, a hand plane, if I can get it clamped up properly. Here's the problem with 4200, especially the fast cure. You try to use a little bit of it and then you seal it up and you end up with junk. So instead of wasting the rest of this tube, I'm going to cut it open and we are going to spread this stuff without making too much of a mess, I hope, all over that wedge. There we go. Oh, what a mess this stuff is. I forget who the guy is from California, but he calls this stuff the devil's toothpaste. I think he's referring mostly to 5200, but I think it works both ways. Well, there's no sense in wasting the rest of this tube of 4200. Get some of it out that's not all starting to cure already. Definitely want to displace any area through here that could harbor water between the new white oak and the original mahogany keel of this boat. And that left me with one more thing to do this week. Create a board that will keep the rudder from falling out of the boat, and then make sure this mocked up steering actually works. So that's it for episode 6, season 3, and I hope that you get to see things as pretty as this, like I do all the time in Chippewa Bay.